ladies. Oh my goodness, today I know I get really excited when I talk about books. It's because it's something that I love and I love to share, and yeah, okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Question of the day, which I'm really proud of this question. What is a series you wish you had completed? Mine would be The Rescuers by Marjorie Sharp. There's like an 8-book series. I only read the first book. I really enjoyed it. I fully intend to go back to it someday. It's just, I don't know when that day will come. The Disney cartoon, The Rescuers and Rescuers Down Under, that's based off this book series. So I recommend that, honestly. It was fun. So happy November, and I cannot believe we got 2 more months left of 2023. It's crazy. And even crazier, guys, October was my best reading month by far. I read 18 books. It blows my mind. Like when I did my last video about the reads I want to do for October, I was on like a reading high, you know, and apparently still am. So I'm excited. Here's some of like the physical ones I read. So we'll get into all those here in just a second. But really quick, thank you all for hanging around the channel and commenting, watching the videos, and liking them. I really do appreciate that. So the first one I read early on in the month was My Best Thanksgiving by Rebecca A. Morse. Super short, like 20 pages. And it's basically, in a nutshell, a man looking back on his favorite Thanksgiving and like reminiscing about all that happened. So it's super short, very wholesome, genuine. I think my favorite part is they end up going on a road trip, traveling up to see family. I forget where they went and all that, but just the strategy they used for, you know, preparing for the trip and leaving is the same one we use. Like, we will pack weeks in advance, but like the night before we leave is when we like get everything like ready, load the car, and we leave like super early, like 2-3 in the morning. So the same strategy was in the book, and so that was really fun. But I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars, and it would be a really fun Thanksgiving read. Then I read Battle for the Land of Sweets by Caitlin King. I had an art copy, which is an advanced reader copy. It did not take me long at all to become invested in the story. I was drawn to the setting and the characters. The author promised Narnia vibes, and she did not disappoint. They were absolutely there, especially with the siblings. So for this, I'm going to go through my whole review for this, but I'll kind of like dumb it down a little bit. I love the cover. It's fun, whimsy, Christmassy, and it's just really good. I enjoy it. Writing, like I said, it did not take me at all long at all to become invested. Like, I started it one night and I just started like zooming through it, and it was so easy to get through because like you lose track of time while you're reading. It's fun. The point of view POV switches, they worked really good up until a time at the very end, like the last half of the book. There were a couple that came up out of nowhere and they were kind of random. I don't think they added much to the story. Like, they would revisit like a very minor character or like someone like from the beginning of the book who didn't really affect the kids' quest or anything. So I thought those were kind of random and like, I don't know. I'm not super familiar with the Nutcracker play, but I know enough to get by, and it was not a hindrance not being very familiar with the play. The world building was super cool, very immersive. I love all the different little like areas the kids go to and everything. It was fun. Very good themes about family and the power of peace that Christ can give us if we just ask for it. No romance, which I loved that. As far as content warnings, this was super mild. Good for all ages, honestly. Just mild action, some sword fighting, some family issues, some neglect, or like just not very good home life sort of. But it was all handled tactfully and there were no issues. And 4 out of 5 stars. I am pumped for book 2 because it did end perfectly for the sequel. I'm so excited. It's going to be awesome. And I definitely recommend this for Christmas time. It's perfect. And if you are a fan of Narnia and the Nutcracker, you'll really enjoy this. Interrupting myself here. I'm thinking about anytime I do reviews for art copies, I'm thinking of doing a special video just for that, like I kind of just did, but just for that. Like, I considered doing it when I did Cabin Girl and for this one, but I'm like, no, I'll just pop them into, you know, this. But I'm looking at my window, by the way, just every so often. I'm thinking about doing that. I don't know. What do you guys think? And let me know. Okay, so the next thing I read, I mentioned in my TBR thing that I really wanted to read some fairy tale retellings, and I did just that. One of them, I started reading the Twist of Adventure series by Kendra E. Ardnek, I think, which I totally butchered your name last time. I apologize, but Kendra. So I started with book 1 called Cinder Eddy. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was a very, very interesting take on the Cinderella story. It was a gender swapped where the Cinderella character is a guy. It was very, very fast paced. It was kind of choppy or rushed in some parts, but I did enjoy it overall, and I love how short it was to get in. We don't get to see much of the characters, honestly, except for Eddie, and not really much of him, but he did make for a really good underdog character if you like that kind of thing. The adventure aspects were pretty mild, and a lot of the problems were solved pretty quickly, too quickly for me, I think. Humility was the main message, and being willing to help others when there's no reward in it for you. And there's just mild fantasy violence, sword fighting, very super mild, great for all ages. Yeah, there's 7 other books in the series, which I read this one, I'll get into. I read the second one as well, but I definitely am going to continue the series. The next book I read in October. I love this so much. I don't know what it was. I liked the writing. The characters were so, I don't know. I watched the cartoon, but I never actually finished it, so I don't know how the cartoon ends. This was just so amazing. I don't know what it was that I loved about it, but I really did love it. I could not put it down, and I need more. I will definitely be continuing the series for sure, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I went back to the Twisted Adventure series, and I read book 2, Poison Kissed, and I liked this one so much better than the first book. I think that it was better written, and it had more story to it. There was actually like a mix of fairy tales, but it mostly focused on Sleeping Beauty, and it was interesting. Really good twist in this, and it was fun. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, I'm going to rant a little bit on this, and I will do my very best to keep any and all spoilers to myself, but guys, there's so much. So much. Okay, next I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I've had this on my shelf forever. It was an impulse buy at Walmart, see? And I was like, you know what? It's October. I'm on a reading high. Let's read it, you know? And I read it. And I gave it 1 star out of 5. And before anyone freaks out, let me go through my review. So the cover's definitely a draw. I mean, I cannot argue that. It's awesome. It's really cool. I could not put this book down. If it weren't for the content, it would have been a much higher rating for me than a 1, because I wanted to know so badly how it ended. And I mean, obviously you can tell it's a murder mystery. So I really wanted to know how it all would play out, and that's what kept me reading. Like, I read this in one setting, I think, because I couldn't put it down. There was a mix of some tape recording, listening to recordings, and text messages, so I do like that format. I think it's unique, and it just, I don't know, makes it more fun. Tons of language, like, yeah. Not clean at all. And there was a constant bringing up of race. I'm not sure what the deal was with that, but I don't know, okay, the characters. I could not stand Pip. I think wow. She made so many bad choices and unethical choices, and because of her, a lot of people suffered, and I think so many things could have been avoided if she had just done things differently. I did not like her at all. And as for the message, the only thing that really rang out to me was that ethics don't matter as long as you get what you want. When it came to romance, not clean at all. While there are no explicit scenes, there's adultery and assaulting. And there's one big thing here I cannot go into for spoilers, but it's not good. And yeah. Illegal, actually. So content warnings, a lot of profanity. There's drug use, there's teen parties with drinking and drugs, and yeah, it's just everything that I don't want to read about is in this book. But like I said, I was very intrigued about the murder mystery, and I wanted to know how it happened. I thought that the storyline was really cool. She's a senior, and for her senior project, she wants to bring up an old murder of one of the students because she believes the person accused of murder actually didn't do it. So she goes back and into all the evidence, all the suspects, brings the case back to light, and discovers the truth. Which I'm not going to say what the truth is or if she was wrong. But yeah, so I do not recommend this, especially for my fellow Christian readers out there. But if all that stuff does not bother you, you'll probably enjoy it. but I personally do not recommend it. And I think I'll probably be giving my copy to the library. When it comes down to the hype of this, honestly, I think there are so many better indie books out there that deserve at least half the hype this has. I mean, that's just my 2 cents though. Okay, and the next one I read was Gather Round the Fables by Erica Matthews. And it's like a retelling of some of Aesop's fables, like The Tortoise and the Hare. It was really unique, interesting, a very quick read actually, and I thought it was very well written. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I love the little fox on the cover, he's cute. And then I read 3 for Halloween by Loretta Livingston. I think that I said that right. So I had it on my Kindle for a year. I snagged it during the big Black Friday sale, which I'm excited for this year, by the way. And I kind of forgot it was in my Kindle until I was looking around to see what would be on this year's sale. And I was like, oh yeah, I have that. And it's like October, so I'm like, let's go ahead and read it. So I did. Super short, 16 pages, 3 stories. I didn't quite care for the stories. They weren't my cup of tea. They weren't scary at all, which isn't a bad thing. I don't like a lot of scary stuff. They weren't scary. I just didn't really care for them. In fact, one of the stories, if it were to happen, I'm pretty sure is illegal, which I didn't find the humor in that. I was actually kind of like, oh, that's not good. So yeah, I mean, they were okay. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Short, but just not for me. Alright, moving on to the next read, and that is The Promise of Acorns by Kelsey Bryant. I loved it. It was so good. 5 out of 5 stars. Everything about it was just, I want to say perfect, but I mean, I guess it was perfect. It was very bookish. It was actually part of the Very Bookish Thanksgiving, which I didn't read, and that's actually not available anywhere. Like, it's like the bookish Easter that I reviewed on here. It was like that collection, but this was Thanksgiving. The story that it focuses on is supposed to be about like Jane Eyre. Never read it. Actually, I had to read it for school. I took an AP English class. Never read it. I was supposed to. I didn't. I just could not get into it for anything. I actually didn't even get very far. I don't think I even made it chapter 5, honestly. But this piqued my interest and made the story sound interesting. So I'm going to have to check it out someday. Characters in this were awesome. The kids were adorable. And it was just so beautiful. It had a really good fall atmosphere, very Thanksgiving-y. I recommend this for Thanksgiving, absolutely. Really good messages of thankfulness and dealing with grief. It was an all-around five-star book, honestly. Okay, and then the book challenge. I read The Looky Loo. I finished it next. It was super suspenseful and creepy. I gave my full review in the last video. The link's there if you want to check it out. I'll briefly sum it up. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was good. It was very suspenseful, creepy, great for Halloween, actually. But I didn't care for the ending. I didn't care much for the characters or the narrative style. It had a To Kill a Mockingbird narrative with the kids and everything. I didn't much care for that book, To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, it was okay, but I don't know. So I did not care for that aspect in this book. And there was a lot of grammar issues that actually did detract from the book for me. It was a solid 3 stars, honestly, solid 3 stars. But it was very suspenseful, and if you like that kind of thing, you'll probably enjoy this. And then next up at bat, we have The Book of Secrets, which I also just reviewed, gave my full review, and it was for my October reading challenge. And it was really good, an epic adventure, and I'm very glad I did finally get back to this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The only thing I did not like was that some of the transitions from scene to scene weren't clear all the time. Like, I wasn't sure what was going on, and I had to backtrack a few times because it is fast-paced, and sometimes there's like no warning about when we're moving on from this to the next part. So that was really the only thing I didn't much care for. Oh, and I wasn't sure how I felt about Brim, who is supposed to represent God in this world. Wasn't sure how I feel about that, but yeah, those were the only 2. There's magic elements in this. Sears, which is a magical book and a stone realm, time travel, jumping, and all that kind of stuff. But characters were great. The plot was very intriguing and engaging as well, and the writing was whimsy and creative. So I did enjoy this, and I'm absolutely going to finish the series. And I actually just wrote my review today for this book. It is Laura of Locksley, which is one of those that I wanted to read because it's a fairy tale retelling for one, and for 2, Robin Hood retelling, and I think Robin Hood is very fallish. This was Very good. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I like the cover. Actually, I think the dark foresty background really makes her green outfit like stand out more, I think. The writing was enjoyable, held my interest. Laurel is entirely too prideful for her own good, but she did get it honestly from her dad. I like that she wasn't portrayed as perfect. She certainly had skills from her dad, her upbringing and everything, but she wasn't perfect. She definitely flawed. Baron was interesting. He's described as super like intimidating and big and just someone you don't want to be on their bad side. But yet he's super gentle and he was respectful. I really did like that. I think together Laurel and Baron made a really good team. And yeah, I did like them. And let me just say, Sam, if you've read this book, Sam needed to happen. He was hilarious and he broke up some tension, you know, and some like, I don't know. I really did like his character. The story felt long. It felt like I had been reading it for like years, honestly, because there's so much to it, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. It's just I would occasionally check my reading progress and be like, yeah, are we about done? Not that I wanted to end it or I was getting bored, it just felt like I'd been reading it forever, if that makes sense. I haven't read Robin Hood in forever, but there were definitely some references or like nods that I recognized and I appreciated a lot, and it actually made me want to reread Robin Hood. I like the themes of trust, and just because someone's family members or ancestors were jerks doesn't mean that person is too. The romance was enemies to lovers. I liked how slow and natural it was. There wasn't any of this love at first sight. By the time there was actually feelings developed, they knew each other pretty well. And I felt like I knew them too, so it was more realistic and believable. Content warnings, there's a few kisses, but you know, nothing crazy. During the winter, they do have to sleep together, which they really don't, just to keep warm and stay alive. No funny business or anything happened. There's some action, violence, some death, and injuries. It was enjoyable. And I was surprised actually how well I liked it. This was a new to me author, but I've already started reading another one of her books, and I intend to read the sequel to this one. And then I finally finished Tuck Everlasting with my mom. We've been trying to finish this book for months. This isn't my first time reading it, but I loved it. And I think I did get more out of it this time, especially the ending. I forgot how frustrating the ending was. It had like a somber, melancholy feel to it. But at the same time, it's like, are you kidding me? You know? So I really love this book. And it's just one of those classics you need to read. Honestly, I like this and the movie equally. There are some differences in the movie I like, such as Winnie Foster is older. This one, she's like 10. I forget her exact age, maybe even 9, I don't know. But I think it made more sense for her to be older. The movie also gave Winnie and the Tucks more time to get to know each other. Here, it was like maybe a day or two, I think. But in the movie, it felt like she was there for weeks. And I did also like Miles's character better. But I really like this book too. And I love the writing style and the descriptions. It's very actually perfect for summer. It has a very like lazy summer feel to it and kind of like dreamlike sort of. But it's timeless and thought-provoking for sure. And it's super good and I recommend it. Since it was Halloween, my mom and I always like to read our favorite Halloween books together. So we read some of these. I know they're for little kids, but there's just some books that you have to read during a certain season. And this is one of ours, The Little Lady Who Wasn't Afraid of Anything. This is one of the classics from my childhood, so super nostalgic for me, and it's just fun. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and the illustrations are amazing. The illustrations are just perfect. Another childhood one, which I didn't grow up reading this one. Actually, my little sister got this forever ago, and then we just kind of read it, and it's super like awesome. One of my favorite parts of this, look at those pictures around the border. Like, it's extra, but it just adds to it. It's so cool. And if you look, the same one who did the illustrations for this one, Megan Lloyd, also illustrated this one. But out of all the kitty books like this, I think this has the most story to it. Okay, I got 3 more. Hang in there with me. Like I said, 18 books. I mean, there's a lot. Then I read, and this was very last minute for me, I read Quest for a Beast by Sarah Holman. Sarah is one of my new favorite authors. I especially love her Kate's Case Files series about FBIs and stuff, which I need to continue that. I read this one because it's short, and it also has like, I thought it would be like a fairy tale retelling, Beauty and the Beast, you know, and I was getting some of those in loosely of retelling, but I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Not my favorite by her, but this is one of her older works, so I think that had a lot to do with it. Just from this book and one of her newer ones, like, you definitely see improvement, so that's always good. But I didn't care for the writing, or the plot was super unrealistic. I did appreciate the messages of second chances and redemption. Those were good, and there was a really good reminder about not letting things such as books get in the way of family. One of the characters was like obsessed with fairy tales, and like that's like she would just read all the time, which I like that. But she was also like ignoring her family kind of, which is never good, which is easy to do, to let things get in the way. So that was a good reminder. I mentioned this in my vacation video that I bought this at a Cracker Barrel, and I'm like, I'm going to read this for Halloween. We did. I'm very familiar with Legend of Sleepy Hollow, so nothing really new to me on that one. Semi-familiar with the Rip Van Winkle, not really, honestly. Apparently less than I thought I knew. And the other two, The Spectre Bridegroom and The Devil and Tom Walker, I've never read those. The first one, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, while I was reading this, something like new clicked in my head. I don't consider any of the characters heroes in this book. You have Ichabod, who only really wants to win Katrina's affections just because of her father's wealth. I don't think he actually likes her, and I think she's kind of fickle, and I didn't care for her. And Bron Bones is a jerk, so I don't think there are any heroes. And yeah, so that was an interesting revelation for me. But I do love the setting, the atmosphere, very spooky, a staple for Halloween. Okay, and then Rip Van Winkle. I honestly thought it was 100 years he slept for. Turns out it's only 20. Did you guys know that? Because I did not know that. Because I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, so that really threw me for a loop, and I was confused. So, but interesting and thought-provoking. And I would love some backstory on those little, whoever they were up in the Catskill Mountains. Which, when I was reading and I realized they were the Catskill Mountains, I was like, I've heard that. Where have I heard that before? My side of the mountain, that's where he goes up. I forget his name, but that's where he goes, and he lives up there for a bit. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. The Spectre Bridegroom, it was okay. It was interesting. It kind of caught me off guard in some spots. I was confused because I thought things were going a certain way, and then it was like drastic change, and it's like, wait a minute, are we doing a Sixth Sense kind of thing where you gotta reread it to be like, oh, this actually happened instead? But no, it was right all along, and I was really confused. Of course, it was my first time reading it, and as you reread, you catch more things. Yeah, that was kind of weird for a bit there, but it was okay. And then The Devil and Tom Walker, I didn't like it. It was actually really sad and depressing. Tom Walker, in order to get like this old pirate gold legend, makes a deal with the devil. In the end, he has to pay for that. I didn't like it. It was sad. It was depressing. So overall, I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5, mostly for the first 2 stories. But I am glad I read this for Halloween. And the last book I read for October, which my throat's kind of hoarse. I read this with my mom. Okay, so I have some backstory on this. My all-time favorite Halloween book from my childhood, and I will tell you why. Years back, when I was in kindergarten, and my teacher read this book to us with an audio tape, and it was cool. I enjoyed it, and I remembered that throughout my growing up years. Several years fast forward, and I'm working at the same elementary school. It's Halloween, and I get to work with the kindergarten class. Same teacher, same book, same audio tape, and I got to sit there, oh actually I think I stood, and I got to listen to it, and oh my goodness guys, it was like the best wave of like nostalgia, and just, it was awesome. I love that so much, and it makes this so much more special, I think. Fun illustrations, so yeah, I definitely recommend this for a Halloween read. So what is on the agenda for November? Well, I'll tell you this, I'm not going to have a long list of like 11 books, because I think that's what I listed last time, which surprisingly I got like I think 7 or 8. I think 7 of them read, which is pretty good for me, honestly. So I'm not gonna list that many. First and foremost, I have to get these done. Not that I have to, I want to. For the November reading challenge, I got them from the library yesterday, and I'm so excited. The Haunting at Bonaventure Circus by Jamie Jo Wright, and House of Secrets by Chris Columbus, which is a bit thicker than I thought, honestly. 10 pages short of 500. I mentioned before I don't like long books, so yeah, but we'll give it a go. And I didn't mention this in the last video, but my friend's name is Jenna, and I have her YouTube link and Instagram link in the description if you want to check her out. She does a lot of cosplay, anime stuff, so she's really cool though, so definitely go check out her book. She's the one that recommended me to read this one. Like I mentioned, I want to reread Robin Hood, so I'm going to read this, The Adventures of Robin Hood by Roger Lanceley Green. I'm very excited to get this going. Another reason why I'm not giving myself a huge list of books to read, because I need to focus on what I have and the ones that I have been failing to actually finish. So I'm going to actually read some of these and get them done like I've been supposed to. Then I'm going to start The Warden of the West March by Emma Little. Kind of started it. Same bookmark, by the way. It just fits, I guess. I don't know. And like I said, I started reading Mary Metcalf, who did the Laura of Locksley, A Curse of Golden Beauty. I started reading it. I really like it so far. It's really good, actually. So I'm going to finish that. Lord willing, we'll get that done. It's actually free if you join her newsletter. So just putting that out there if you want to check it out. And then I'm going to return to the A Twist of Adventure series. And book 3 is Red as Snow. I'm assuming it's a Snow White retelling. I want to get back to this series because all the books are super short. Like this one, actually, it says on Goodreads, it's 24 pages. I can do 24 pages. So I definitely want to get that one for sure and hopefully move on to the rest of the series. And that is my list of goals. Will I read more than that? Probably. Do I want to read more than that? Absolutely. But do I also want to set myself up for failure? No. So I'm sticking with that and we'll go from there and we'll see. Anything else is icing on top of the cake. So the next video will be up on the 17th, and I'm not 100% sure what I have for that, but I have a couple ideas in mind, and I'm pretty stoked to share them with you. So thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate you guys. You're all the best. So until next time, happy reading!